Excellent. Okay, the Straveg continues. We are back in Scotland. Straveg, I'm calling it at the moment. Doug, Doug and I, we bump into each other every 3 or 4 years, don't we?
Yeah, 3 4 years. It always just seems like you've never been away.
Well, there is that. Yourself as well, and that's been that way for maybe 30 years or so now.
Yeah.
In and out of this crazy music business thing. Quick background in champion Doug Veitch. If you don't know, then you need to. You're the man that invented world music.
Aye, well,
it was you and Charlie Gillett
that
coined the phrase world music, wasn't it?
Well, we had a kind of. I've never really been happy with the term world music, but
nobody is. But you got to put it somewhere.
That was the thing that went, that had to be labelled somehow.
Yeah.
And you think, well, wait a minute, it isn't really world music because we're talking primarily in these days. It was music from Africa.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, right. What I want to do, and I'm only going to set this up. I'm going to do a bit of a more in-depth interview because that whole thing that happened in Zimbabwe when you went out there and found the Bundu boys and brought them back in, that was seismatic.
It was really.
Yeah. That really changed everything, didn't it?
One of the things that was funny about that was we did a Bundu Boys single and then we did an album called Zimbabwe Hits Take Cover, which was
What was the name of the label again?
Disca Freak.
Disca Freak.
It was a pretty bonkers record. There was some brilliant stuff on it.
Yeah.
But Jumbo Van Rennen from Earthworks was heard laughing in Stearns and said, "Ha ha ha, this is the record that makes all other Zimbabwean records sound good," because he just didn't get it.
Yeah.
And of course, Zimbabwe Hits Take Cover became a bit of a cult album.
Yeah.
John Peel was playing tracks of it.
Yeah.
Because it had wonderful things like girls singing with a country background, a 3-girl harmony group. And it was just like, it could have been straight out of Nashville.
Yeah.
Because that was huge in Zimbabwe. People have got to remember that.
Yeah.
There was all sorts of things happening. And they were taking little bits of influences that were coming in, doing their own thing with it. Yeah. And that to me was exciting. But the Jumbo, it wasn't, because it wasn't.
That's what happened in Jamaica with reggae.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the world go round.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I thought could have been brilliant about the internet. It gave the people, musicians all over the world, the chance to play with each other.
Yeah.
It hasn't really happened.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's been a huge...
So, we're talking about John Peel, and that's where I heard your name first of all. And we're talking about changing the world with music. I had a tape recorder. It was a little Philips tape recorder with one knob on it.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to record Peel sessions.
Yeah.
And one of the ones that I kept going back to was Champion Doug Veitch and the Cajun, Champion Doug Veitch, the undisputed king of Khalid. Correct me if I'm wrong. And where did that all spring from?
Where did it all spring from? Well, I suppose it came from, a mixture of the accordion and such like. You're down in London, you're playing a bits of accordion and such like. People are thinking, wow, that's different, and it's just Cajun, that's what accordion on it. So,
so were you? I'm going to get you to play a bit of accordion as well. Were you playing Cayley band stuff?
Just in the house, you'd be playing a tune. And,
And then you ended up in London and met a whole load of people playing all sorts of
stuff. And we went down to London.
Because it was a huge orchestra that you were carting around for a while there, wasn't it?
It was too big because you just couldn't do gigs. Really. You could do gigs in London, but to go outside of London was just an absolute nightmare. You could go to Brighton, and we had great nights at the likes of the Zap Club. But the idea of going up to Manchester for 300 quid wasn't possible with a 12-piece band. It was just impractical. I mean, I went down. I'll be honest with you. I went down to London. The streets are paved with gold. I went down to do something with music, and I was just very fortunate. By pure chance, rang up a studio, Ariwa Sounds, and said, "I want to record a record." Oh yeah. And he was saying, "So what sort of stuff is it?" And I was telling him what his stuff is. I said, "Do you have any session musicians?" Yeah. And I said, "Would you know a pedal steel player?" And I heard him say, "What's a pedal steel?" And he just said, "Yeah." But anyway, this turned out to be Mad Professor. So I eventually found a pedal steel player in a little pub on the Old Kent Road playing an Irish country band.
Wow.
So we grabbed gentleman Jim Craig into it. And it was going into Neil's studio and Neil hearing this pedal steel and thinking, wow, what a crazy instrument, I can dub that, and thing. And so We ended up doing 3-4 singles with Neil and collaborating on various things. It was just, to me, it was just a fantastic world. You end up in a reggae studio with the man himself doing. It was bonkers back then, and it just doesn't seem to be.
Well, what it did for me is, as a 16-year-old, just listening under the covers when my parents thought I was sleeping, what it did for me was I got the word Cajun and went, what does that mean then?
Went and listened to some.
And John Peel, bless his heart, he would play your stuff and then go, but you should listen to Dio Manad.
Yeah.
Or you should, you should listen to the Balfour Brothers, and then he would play that.
Yeah.
So it was like,
and that was what was great about it, and it's just. And
So-
to me, when down in London, it opened up a whole new world. Suddenly, there you are in a reggae studio,
and you've got all the musicians there,
you've got all the
it was all
musicians,
coming in.
and you know, you're suddenly going hearing fantastic bands that you've never heard of. Les Quatre Étoiles from Zaire, and suddenly this opens up to be just.
I'm going to get onto your newest project at some point, but just before we do, it's fabulous. I just heard it just now. It's fabulous. Just before we do, I'm still intrigued about how you got to Zimbabwe. How the hell did you manage to get to Harare and find the Bundu Boys?
Well, it was purely my business partner Owen Elias who had connections in Zimbabwe.
And your business partner, was this in music? You had a record label?
They've had a record label. Yeah. He was very keen on my music at the time.
All right, okay, so you were on his label?
No, he didn't have a label.
Right.
He liked my music, and I said, start a label.
Yeah.
And he told me about these great Zimbabwean bands.
Yeah.
So it just came from there. Owen had the contacts, and went out there. Came back with a load of singles.
Was he Zimbabwe?
No, but he had an uncle in Zimbabwe.
I see.
Who was one of the ones, lived way up in the mountains in Chimani Mani. He couldn't.
And they would have just come out of the Civil War at that time.
They come out of the Civil War. He couldn't leave. I mean, if he left, he would have to left all his money behind. And he seemed quite a reasonable guy anyway. So just over there and records, and it was just the Bundu Boys stuck out. They stuck out because they were a standard band. It was just like a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
2 guitars, keyboards, drums and bass. You're thinking, and everybody said, "You're mad. Nobody's going to listen to music that's not in English." And I said, "Well, that's just setting you a challenge."
Yeah.
We put it out, and of course, I think Ian Anderson was the first to play it down in Guildford, but Peel picked up on it right away. And it's just music goes beyond language, and it was just fantastic response to them.
Yeah.
But people again from the sort of world music side, they didn't get it. That they were popular because they were recognisable as a guitar band.
They were a dance band.
Yeah. And there's
Kept
one thing
them
you
dancing for 5-6 hours.
do, You got on your feet and you didn't stop.
Yeah.
And they gave value for money.
Yeah.
And they were happy and they were enjoying themselves playing.
Yeah.
And that's infectious.
Yeah.
That's
so
the
their very first gig in Europe was it the
it was in the Mayfair Ballroom in
the
Sauchiehall
Mayfair
Street.
Ballroom in
Bless its
Sauchiehall
heart.
Street, and you had booked that for them.
Yeah.
And they arrived with.
They arrived with no instruments. They arrived with a bathroom bag each at Heathrow Airport the morning of the gig.
No instruments.
No instruments.
No backline.
And
Nothing.
later on, Rise openly admitted, we knew if we went without instruments, you'd have to buy us instruments. So it was all quite well calculated. So it was right, somebody fly up to London and try and sort out gear, put them on a train.
Yeah.
They arrived in Glasgow about 2 hours before the show. We'd managed to scramble together gear.
And did you get an audience that first night?
Maybe a couple of hundred.
Really?
Because it was part of the Mayfest, which was Glasgow's attempt to challenge
and I remember
the
that
Edinburgh
really
Festival.
Well. Yeah. So there was an interesting
audience, and it was really the opening night of the Mayfest that year. And it was Janice Long was the one that was involved with Mayfest at that time. And they went on. I didn't know what to. It was kind of nerve-wracking for us. We didn't even know what to expect.
Yeah.
Went on stage and they played for 4 hours and just blew the place apart.
Yeah.
The next morning we got up. This is a funny story. The next morning we got up to a dreadful racket. We were staying by Sauchiehall Street, and the Bundu Boys very excitedly saying, "What's happening? What's happening?" It was the Orange March. Down Sauchiehall Street. So how do you explain to 5 Zimbabwean guys?
How do you explain it to?
How do you explain it to anybody? What is an what is an Orange March?
600 years of history. Sit down and we'll see if we can explain this.
These girls are going to try and run across the road, and these guys with the corsets are going to.
Jeez.
So that was a sort of introduction to the Western world for them. Like,
oh goodness.
So many great stories from them.
Yeah.
From the
They ended up buying a house here in Staine and packing out major theatres for a good long while.
And headlining festivals.
Yeah.
They were probably one of the biggest live bands.
Yeah. They went to Nashville, recorded with all their heroes, and
they ended up playing with Don Williams.
Yeah.
All sorts of bizarre things.
Yeah, loads of bizarre things.
You know, toured Australia, toured Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, Shabini traded places for the campfire sessions, I think it was.
That's right. Yeah.
And they stayed number one or number two in the indie charts for about a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you look at me now, I don't know where the money went, but it didn't go to Beach, that's for sure.
It certainly did. It didn't go to Rise Kagona as well either.
No. I would say Shabini, I would say it's, it's still one of my favourite albums.
It is. I can hear it in my head. Now,
No,
you
there
just
wasn't a
mentioned
track
it.
on it.
Yeah.
There's the bloody phone, isn't it typical?
That'll be the telephone. So I'm with champion Doug Veitch. He is undisputed king of Caledonian Cajun swing, of course, an undisputed father of world music in many ways. You've got a harp there. You've got a rack of instruments. This is a mandolin.
There's a mandolin. That is a 3-string guitar.
Right.
Which is a solid body.
Yeah. Tell us about the new project then.
The new project is the Eclectic Electric Ukulele Blues Band, which is a grand combination of people. A couple of guys from Coventry, Rick Medlock and Horace Panter of Specials fame.
Yeah.
So we recorded down in Coventry with a chap, Roger Lomas, who's the big two-tone
It's rock and roll, eh?
It's rock and roll. It's rock and roll, but it's rock and
like
roll
Dick
with
Dale.
ukuleles.
Yeah.
But
Dick Dale plays the ukulele, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's a bit different, and I want to get it out there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do our best on that.
I've got pink electric ukuleles. I've got, they're wonderful instruments that I get custom made for me. Flying V there. Far too many.
Right, stick something on that beautiful system.
So we'll get a little taste of it.
Let's
if you
have
want
a
to hear
taste of
little
it, and then
of it.
we'll get some accordion and we'll get out your hair. Doug, thanks for having us down, man. Check this. Take that out of its cover for them. Wait till you see this. Whoa! Psychedelic now. Fabulous. Beautiful. So we're taking fade it out. Hang the DJ. So champion Doug Veitch, it is the Eclectic
Electric Ukulele
Blues Band. They'll be coming to a festival near you, no doubt, before too long. How does people find this, and how can they buy that beautiful lump of plastic?
They can go to Facebook, to the Eclectic Electric Ukulele Blues Band, and they will find a place there that they can buy it from.
And they'll be able to find Doug Veitch somewhere on
They'll
Facebook
find
as
Doug
well.
Veitch Facebook. You can message me on Facebook. It's a limited edition, 500. There will be no more made on coloured vinyl, each one numbered in gold.
Beautiful.
Pure gold.
Beautiful. Right, bit of accordion.
Pure gold.
Bit of accordion in the country. Introduce us to the Doug.
This is Mossy.
Hi, Mossy.
I was going to say this is my new best pal. This is my new only pal. So Mossy's a retired greyhound who's quite happy being retired. Doesn't want to see his pals racing. We'll give you... by one of my heroes, Jimmy Shand. It's called the
Jimmy Shand,
Loonin'
of course.
Waltz.
Was that Achtamachty not too long ago? He's got a statue there, you know.
Do you know, it's a funny thing about Jimmy Shand. He's one of these guys that kind of... Scotland's great at ridiculing its own culture, which really depresses me. Jimmy Shand has sold more records than the Beatles. He was a remarkable composer and a remarkable man. He started off playing the melodeon to raise money for the miners in the miners' strike in the 1920s.
Of course, he was a miner himself, yeah.
Yeah, and you start thinking, like, all the tunes he's written, even bagpipers say, you know, sounds like Dundee City Police Might Pipe Band, you know, great tunes.
Yeah.
He was a genius.
He was part of Scotland when we were growing up, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that he's remembered for the White Heather Club.
I know.
You know. He's worth way more than that, Jimmy Shand. So there we are.
There we are. We are in the company of Champion Doug Veach, and good luck with everything that's coming up. I'll keep in touch, and we've got some CDs and records, so they're going in the Moose, and I'm going to spread the gospel of eclectic electric ukulele blues band. That's my next task.
You are my new minister.
That's my my latest task, and it's a delight to be given that opportunity.
It's good. It's good to meet you again, Rob.
It's good to see you, man.
It should never be 5 years between our...
I know, eh?
Yeah.
So that's it. We're on the road. We're this evening. I should just plug the fact that we're going to go and see Nicky Murray and Robin Adams at the Glad Cafe. Nice little singer-songwriter gig. Listening to him gig this evening, and so good to be back in Scotland and straight into the company of my heroes.
Oh, that's great, Rob. Good to see you.
Take care, bro. So